Next drawer is also end mills. Over here I have some Dovetail Cutters that I've used for various projects. And I have, these actually came in a estate sale. These two here. These are the ones I bought back here. You can tell they're some Chinese made ones, and they work all right. I buy lots of small end mills, not as in large quantity, although that's also true, but this set of carbide small end mills of various sizes, some ball, some not, they were selling them like 120 for like 30 bucks. And I bought them because sometimes you get a tap stuck in there. And you know when you use a small end mill like one of these that I bought new, they're very easy to break. So I got these because they're somewhat expendable. I've got some specialty end mills here. You've seen me use these if you watch my plastic cutting video. And these two end mills, this is a single flute, and the other one over here is a double flute, designed for cutting plastic. They work pretty well, actually. I also had good luck with the zircon nitride coated bits. Although, again, as I've mentioned before, you know, when they're making a carbide cutter, like one of these guys here, they sharpen the end mill, and then they put the coating on it. And if the coating is thick enough, it's going to round over that super sharp edge because it's coating it. And anyways, so if you need super sharp, that's why people go to high-speed steel or uncoated. These are all estate sale drill bits. I mean, end mills. And you know, to be honest, this mill I've got, I just should just get rid of this because, to be honest, to use a 1-inch end mill in this mill, it's not really functional. It provides too much force with especially something this long, and it wants to chatter like crazy and pull the ways if you're doing a climb cut. And so it just really doesn't work out. I think my mill's qualified, you know, by the manufacturer to do up to 3/4 inch bits. I've tried these a couple times, had really poor luck with it. Someone more experienced probably can do better. I've got some reduced shank cutters back here. These also I got from the estate sale. These are high-speed steel. And more. There are some radius cutters here. These are outside radius cutters. And I also have my ball mills here. So over in this section are ball mills. So that's for inside radiuses. So you can do outside radiuses and inside radiuses. Got a selection of sizes. A lot of them came on eBay in lots. Some of them used, some of them new. Not all of them came with cases. And that's that. Oh, these are end mill extensions here. So I've got a carbide one that you might have seen me use recently. This is for tiny end mills with 8-inch shanks. And then these are various other size shank end mill extensions. So you pop the end mill in here and you can reach deeper into your workspace where the end mill itself may not be able to reach, and they're somewhat stiffer. They're not, most of these are just plain old steel of some sort. This one's carbide. Next drawer, I've got my cutters here, and I bought, there was a great estate sale. I'm going to be showing you stuff that came from this estate sale more than once. It came from, the estate sale was out in the desert, and the guy was a Rocketdyne engineer, a machinist, and he liked to collect tools. So he bought huge lots of stuff, things he didn't even need. So I bought a ton of stuff from them, and I bought a lot of stuff by the drawer. And it was really good deal that way. So there's all kinds of cutters here. Some of these bigger ones are better for a horizontal mill style attachment. I have one for my my Bridgeport copy over here, my Acme. Other types are just using the standard arbor, which you have over here. There's regular arbors. These arbors are specific size internal diameters, as well as the small one here, which is a machinist made one. I didn't make it. It was just given to me. In a lot. Well, given me, I bought it in a lot. And then these are multi-size slitting saw holders. And see these, they're spring-loaded and they pop down. They got various diameters here. So you can use this 1/2-inch shank, and they hold surprisingly well. You might think they'd be problematic. And they're also reasonably concentric. They don't run out that much. There's also a direct R8 version of that I've got here. And then just a bunch of different slitting saws. There's tiny ones and big ones and some solid carbide ones, which are really brittle, and some plain old high-speed steel ones. There's some really big ones, like this guy here, and the ones underneath it. There's a whole variety. I got rid of a bunch of them, but kept a few because, well, kept a few. I kept more than a few. This one's diamond abrasive. Depending on what you're doing, sometimes they're really handy to have. This one's carbide with some sort of interesting, actually it's solid carbide all the way through. I thought there was, based on the pattern, that there was some sort of internal holding piece for the outside carbide, but it's not. It's actually solid carbide. Anyways, so got a bunch of slitting saws, and I have sold and given away a ton of these. Still have a bunch because, like I said, I bought it by the drawer. Next drawer is just my hand tools, including a hammer I made as a class project when I was in school. And I'm sure that's a pretty common one for a lot of schools. I've got my stone to stone off the surface of the mill. This one is not a precision ground, but it was very flat, so it really just glides most of the time. And then spare parts for the milling machine, things I've taken off and never put back on, or spare parts that I had to buy because I broke them. This piece goes inside the quill release, auto release mechanism, and I had another video on that. Anyways, that got damaged. This part came off the knee. This was to raise the knee, but I've replaced that with a motor, so I just kept the parts in here. And that's pretty much it for this drawer. Last drawer in the top chest is some ER32 stuff, and they're in here mostly because they were for the lathe. And so this is a Lathe Mt. This is for the tailstock. I originally got an ER32 and didn't realize that if you had a set of standard ER32 Imperial, like 1/8 to 3/4, there's really no need to buy metric because these cover the exact same size range, although these are specific for metric sizes, but each one will cover the range between the other two. And the big difference between these and other types collets, many other types of the older collets like the R8 collets, R8 collets just compress on the top, which means when you're compressing on the top, you're levering. And if you can imagine this is a cone and it is not square, which means it's really only making full contact at one point when it closes, right? These guys have slits on both sides and they crush symmetrically, so they grab the part much better. So I got an ER32 before I realized there was even an ER40 because I didn't see it at the time. So I got ER40 later. I have some R8 collets here. This is 5C hex adapter and a 5C square adapter for milling squares and hexes. And this is the ER32 version of that. There's some MT adapters, Morse taper adapters here. This is MT2, MT1, MT3, and MT4 to R8. Although when you use something like this, which I've actually had to do, you lose so much vertical Z travel space that I had to mount what I was drilling off the side of the mill. And that's a pain in the butt. Last but not least, I have some, well, second to last, is some spare milling cutter inserts for milling cutters I've got over on the wall. And here is a Tapmatic copy from China, and it works all right. The clutch is a little bit, it repeats okay, not great. So I've never broken a tap, but sometimes it seems like it's gonna. And the amount of force that's applied to this when this thing engages is quite a bit. And the metal shaft that I have here, this is tool steel, this is 01, and it bent it. This goes up in the little, I don't know what you call that part. It's on the side of the mill, and right by the bottom of the quill, and it normally has a little rod in it, maybe a depth setting thing. I don't know what it's exactly for, but I put this guy in there, and then I can use this guy to do power tapping, and it works all right. It's just usually a bigger pain in the ass than it's worth setting up, or pain in the butt, pardon me. On to the bottom cabinet. Top shelf is my micrometers and my very favorite Mitutoyo Quantum mics. These are fantastic because they move 4 times faster than a regular mic. You can see how quickly you can open these guys up and still maintain accuracy. They're really fantastic. Wonderful mics. Then I've got one of my Fowlers, my original Fowlers that I had bought originally, left over. And then this one was given to me. It's got a few problems, but the The mechanical part works, the digital part not so much. It's problematic. I've got some standards in here. And I have a Mitutoyo, part of a Mitutoyo set that was given to me by my friend whose dad passed away and was a retired machinist. And I use these. I actually love those. They're wonderful. I have some ball gauges in here for small hole diameter checking. So you stick this in the hole, tighten it down till it just rubs, pull it out, and take a mic over it and measure the diameter. That's great for small holes. And then I have telescoping gauges. I have short-handled ones, which are Starett, which are very smooth. And my original purchased Chinese ones that aren't bad at all. These guys are much longer handle and can reach into deeper holes. I have my Unimic in here. And the Unimic's handy because with this little cylinder, you can clamp that in the end and measure pipe diameters. It's got a flat piece that sticks in the back, and with that you can use it to measure standard mic sort of measurements, but it's a bigger, flatter surface. Can get in some spots where a normal micrometer can't because of the arm, the curved arm over here. And then you can unscrew the whole bottom section here, and it's ground and lapped carbide base, and you can use this to do height depth measurements as well. It's a great micrometer, really handy and worth having. And over here is a used part of an estate sale, is a groove mic, a Mitutoyo groove mic. And it's got two little discs on the end that separate and help you measure really small groove diameters, or widths rather, not diameter. That's it for the first drawer. Next drawer is a variety of depth mics. These were all purchased used. This is a Starett set. These are blade mics, so they can do things that the standard cylindrical mics can't do. Tom Lipton turned me on to these, and they were really handy. So I went and found a used set. Fortunately, depth mics aren't terribly expensive, so I was able to get a set of those. This is a large width depth mic that goes up to 10 inches. I had to write on here, it's a ST, some Asian made brand, but it's actually pretty reasonable. Very smooth action on the base. I bought it used too. And one of the first tools I ever bought is a Starett depth mic set, and these are cylindrical ones. They still work quite well though. And last but not least is a V mic, and this is great if you need to measure the diameter of something like an end mill, something with flutes that have an odd number of flutes, because if it has an odd number of flutes, you can't take your normal mic and get across it and get an accurate measurement, whereas this touches at 3 points can. So this handles odd points, and I bought this used. I'm actually proud to have the machinist's mark on here who owned it before me. Next drawer is another set, a bunch of mics, and I have some screw thread mic sets that I got from Shars, and I cover all the way up to 2 inches, which is really handy. Because if anyone's ever used thread wire, you probably know how miserable it is to use that. This is a Shars one. Shars actually makes some really nice tools. They're made in China and Taiwan, but they pick and choose decent quality for the most part. I've been really happy with their stuff. Also, inside micrometer, I have a 0 to 1, or actually this is a 0.2 to 1.2. And this uses 2 pins. Comes with a gauge to set it up, and you can measure inside or outside with this. And I have a 1 to 2. This one has bars, so you can either measure inside here or outside here. And this is 1 to 2. When you close this all the way up, between here and here is 1. And here's a different style of inside mic. So this one, you put inside something and you adjust this guy till the 2 ends just touch. And it's got a little arm that screws in here so that you can do it remotely. That's this guy right here. And it's also got some extension arms here so that you can do really large diameter objects. Got that used in like almost every mic in there is used. So here's another one. This is a disc mic. Handy, came with a set of other tools. This is a Brown and Sharp, very smooth action on it. This is a ball mic for measuring tube diameters. One side's got a cylinder, a sphere, and the other side's flat, and you can get inside and measure pipe diameters because the inside of a pipe is curved, and so if you try with a flat mic, it's going to bridge part of that curve and you won't get an accurate measurement. This will. I have 2 pin mics here, or needle mics, I guess you might call them. They're very sharp points, and you can measure thread groove width, or if you just have a problem getting in somewhere, these can be really handy. Again, got them all used. And this is a blade mic, and sometimes it's handy to have. Got this with a lot of tools, and it's got the previous owner's name on it, which is nice. Oh, from IBM, no less. And it's a Starett. Haven't had much chance to use this one, or much need to, but it came with a group of other tools, so I'm glad I've got it. Next drawer is my Schar's copy of the center finder of the Blake. Worked quite well. Bought this really early on. Used it many times. Love it. Works very well. Over here is a Starett back plunge indicator. Very handy to use at times. And it comes with I bought the extra adapter so that you could switch the direction of measurement on that guy. After Schar's sent me the first set of calipers of the Aventur, I liked it so much I bought the 12-inch, and it's really fantastic. I use it all the time. See that Adam over at A-Bomb 79 also uses a 12-inch set of Schar's calipers. They're very nice calipers. I'm very pleased with them. This set I got at an estate sale, and I got them broken, so I got them for almost nothing. They're a Starett set, and it's a set of dial calipers. And I sent these out to get them repaired, and they're like new now. So they're just absolutely wonderful. I don't use them a whole lot, but they're beautiful, and I wouldn't get rid of them. If you're wondering where to get your stuff repaired, MR Tool Repair. This guy is fantastic. You can check him out. Radius gauge set, Chinese one, just okay. Reasonable enough. Only used it a couple times. And back here is a dial bore gauge set. It's a Fowler. I had a particular use for this and bought it just for that use. This guy here is a magnetic base, a Noga, that's got a shaft in it, and it's just for using with the Blake here. Because you know that Blake, the arm of the Blake's got to come around to stop on something. You can either hold it by hand, or you can use this guy, and that gives leaves your hands free to go adjusting the X and Y axes. Next drawer is parallels, and these are inexpensive Chinese sets of 1/8 inch, 32nd set, 1/4 inch, some 1/2 inch Chinese ones. And then some miscellaneous ones that I've purchased used, like these really handy ones. These are Anton, and they're about, what are they, like 7/8 of an inch? Oh, 7/8 by 1 3/4. These are really handy for setting things up. Got them used, and surprisingly enough, parallels are expensive even when they're used. Another set of longer parallels, and an I-beam bar that has been ground precisely for setting up. Everything in this drawer is so heavy it slides around. I made these V-blocks for when I do really large diameter parts. These just touch at nicer, you know, with a normal V block that's got the 90 degree angle, it sometimes can put marks on a large diameter object. So that's what these were for. I made these for a project I was doing. These springs back here are for holding parallels in place as you're closing the vise jaws. They work really well. And this little guy is a really cool tool. It has a ball in the middle, and you can hold non-square parts in your vise with ease, only up to something like 20 degrees or something like that. And this goes on the movable vise jaw side, and if the part is at an angle, it'll just hold nicely. It's obviously not as good as having something square, but when you need to, this is a handy tool. I forget the manufacturer of that. He sells them on eBay. Next drawer, I've got my 5C collets that don't fit anywhere else, that have squares and hexes and some smaller and oddball sizes that are not that don't fit in the small holder I've got over by the lathe. I've got some V blocks over here in various sizes, including a couple really big ones. 1, 2, 3 blocks, some 2, 4, 6 blocks, and these are one of my prides and joy. They're Suburban Tool V blocks, a matched pair. They were gorgeous, and I got them for a really good price. They're one of my favorite tools. I just absolutely, they're just works of art. I have a mini V block set here with the adapters to hold really small parts in the mill. And I have boring heads here. All 3 of those boring heads were purchased from a machinist that was retiring. This is a micro-adjustable boring head from Metal. It's got a very small range, but very easy to adjust. These are intense. Big divisions for a 10th. So easy to get really accurate adjustments. Came with a bunch of really small boring bars in there. And then a couple of Criterion. This is a big Criterion and the smaller Criterion. And before this, I had some Chinese-made ones, and they were fine. But when I got the opportunity to get these really inexpensively, I took advantage of it. Next drawer has things that don't fit in other drawers and some angle blocks. So start with the Edge Technology mill tramming device. And it came with a little magnetic button to set the 0 on, but I bought a square gauge block, and that works better. This is an excellent tool for tramming the mill, because with 2 indicators, you don't have to swing side to side and then go behind the mill, look the other way, and then go to the front and look at the other side. Saves you a lot of trouble. Very handy tool. Worth getting, in my opinion, especially if you're constantly tramming your mill, which I check it quite often. Because being a Chinese-made Acra, the tramming does not stay. If you do really heavy milling, tramming gets knocked out. I have some angle blocks here. This was the first set I got, and I thought these were really awesome, except there's something really bad missing from these, which is something to stop your part from sliding right off the end. And I got these. They're Chinese-made, but pretty well made. And I quit using them most of the time because they're kind of a pain in the butt. And instead, I have, well, I'll get to it in a second. I have a standard General protractor that probably everyone's seen, and this was used, and who's this? Oh, Shure and Tomiko protractor. So almost everything in this drawer is for doing angles. So here's 2 made in China block sets that make up for the weaknesses of the other set. They have stops, which is much, much handier. If you ever watch The Tool and Die Guy, he made a set himself a long time ago, and once you have them, you never go back. Except for very specific applications, those other ones can be really handy. If you're like setting up a vise or something along a fence, the other ones are better if you don't want to have it run into the stop and you want a larger surface area. I have 2 sets of these so I can support a part on 2 sides, and they're inexpensive, so you can afford to do that. Down here are 3 different sign bars of different sizes. These were go no go gauges, and I took them over the surface grinder and ground them square and parallel, and I just use them as setup blocks occasionally. There's an adjustable angle setting holder that I use in the mill occasionally when I want something that doesn't fit a standard angle block, and it does all the way down into the minutes, probably in 5-minute increments. And a couple machinist-made triangles, and you might think that this would be some normal set of angles, but this is actually not. This is a 90 and then 2 odd angles, and this is a 245. I'm not quite sure what this was used for, but it came with a lot of tools. It's a pair of 45s, which pins will keep them locked together to store them. Those are purpose-built for something. I just don't know what the purpose was. And then 2 sets of these angle blocks. And these guys are 45-90 and 30-60-90 triangles in a pair again, because you always want to. I always find myself wanting to support the part on 2 sides. Makes it. I'm sure professional do a better job, but I have a heck of a time sometime, and having a pair of blocks really helps. This I got for almost nothing. It's like $10 on eBay. And I got it because it's so interesting. It's an Acme Tools taper measuring device. So you slide this in the slot, run this up to it, and it'll read down here what the thickness is at the spot here. And I just thought it was such a beautiful tool. I got it anyways, even though I've never used it for anything. It's just beautiful, so I kept it. Attention to detail is really nice. I like the slot that runs down the side. And anyway, and it's interesting that the scale in here is removable. It was done externally and then put in at the end. It's just a beautiful tool, along with a custom wood case for it. This guy here, this is a really interesting set. This is a Russian set. If you want to buy the Starett angle block set, they have a limited number of blocks. It's like 13 blocks or something like that, and it cost a couple $1,000. This was $100 and something, and look at all the angles you get in here, including fractions of a degree angle blocks that you can add up. And look at the quality of these things. They are fantastic, including some tooling to attach them together and some pins that to connect them. It's a really beautiful set, and I got it for $100 and something. I think it was new used. Last drawer on the bottom is full of a couple really large sign blocks, and I guess sign bars, and I guess you'll notice that I really like them. I got all of these used. I didn't buy any of my sign bars nude. A bunch of clamps, some machinist-made angle blocks that came with lots of other things that I bought, including a large set of V blocks over here. And there's some nested angle blocks here that, again, machinist-made. And my mini pallet and some soft jaws for the mill. And that's it. On both sides, I have gloves, paper towels, my wife's glove holder, and some magnetic plastic material. And on the other side, I hung my clamp set. I've got a bunch of magnets everywhere. My lubricants and cutting fluids on several shelves, as well as the wrenches I most commonly use that fit on this mill, including the wrench for the clamp set, because I really don't like the wrench that came with it. And over here I've got Keith Fenner's T-slot cleaner. I use it all the time. That's a really handy tool. And that covers the toolkit.